Welcome everyone to another episode of Heal Profoundly and Enduringly. I'm so happy to have you here, and I'm very, very excited to introduce Cassie in just a quick hot moment. But I'm here to tell you about Heal. If you are not familiar with this show and you haven't been here before, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. This is really about bringing forward those quote unquote off the beaten pathways to assist yourself with healing at the deepest level and at the most sustainable level. That this is not just band-aid approaches. I bring on experts, people that I know are kick-ass humans who are doing really, really successful, efficient, effective work in the world. So I really encourage you to listen in and grab some tools and resources for your toolbox. Today we have Cassie Biltz. And I love Cassie. Can't wait to tell you all about her. She's a transformational hypnotherapist and business coach who helps established female entrepreneurs reach their next level of success, abundance, and freedom through mastering aligned energetics, subconscious reprogramming, and energetic scaling and marketing. So today, Cassie's gonna be talking all about subconscious rewiring and healing through hypnosis. I'm so excited to have you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. So we're going to start this show just like we always do, friends, which is asking Cassie McCasserson here, what is that one thing that you feel is necessary to heal the most profoundly and enduringly?
Yes, that's such a big question.
It
Feel like
is.
I'm on a game show. What is in my perspective and my view of the world, I feel like the biggest thing is understanding that there is a force that lives through us. There is something that creates babies and something that heals your, like when your finger's cut, you don't have to sit there and be like, oh my God, why aren't you healing? Like it just heals that's what it does. And we can use this force, call on it, connect with it. We are it anytime we want. And it's only when we forget that this is available to us and is us that we give our power away to people outside of us, like doctors and medicine and just all sorts of people. And we hand our responsibility for healing over to other people. And it's our responsibility. It's something that we have the power to initiate, but also that force that creates us, that creates life, is there to support us and heal us. That's what it's there for. You know what I mean? So that I would say connecting with that and recognizing that, at least for me, has been the biggest thing that's healed me throughout things that I've gone through in my life.
Yeah, I love that so much. I'm so glad you're bringing that forward. And it's funny too, because I was literally just writing the next module for my mastermind clients, and it's on the autonomic nervous system. And that's exactly what I was literally just typing before you came on, which is about, the autonomic nervous system is all about regulating our breath and our digestion and our heart rate and things like that we don't think about. We don't think about waking up in the morning and telling our heart to beat,
Yeah.
These are things that are occurring in the background. And so it's about that trust and that belief and that knowing that there's a force there that's going to heal us.
Yes. And you can call on it whenever you want. The only reason people don't is because in our society, we haven't been taught that that's available. So then people look at you like you're a nut, if you're like, well, I heal myself through hypnosis or whatever tools you're using. And hypnosis is just a tool, right? The actual energy that's healing me, again, is the same energy that makes all of us. And I just feel like if we can, again, when you're, for example, I always use babies because it's just like the perfect example. When you get pregnant, you don't have to think growing a baby. That's just what your body does. And your body is same thing with healing. Only when you're in dis-ease has something gone wrong. Our natural state is whole health, vibrancy. So yes.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to start with the physical body because I know you've healed a number of things for yourself, but let's start with talking about, and I'm very curious about this story as well. So just because that I've had my own journey with physical recovery as well. So I know that you healed your thyroid. Can you tell us a little bit about that and like how you did that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I developed thyroid disease, Graves' disease, with all of the fun things that come with it when I was about 18. So interestingly enough, I was in an abusive relationship at the time, emotionally and verbally. And I think that's what triggered it to come out. I also had some, I don't know how, I had some, I don't know what I'm allowed to say and not say.
You could say whatever you want.
To be honest. Okay. Well, I had a vaccine at the time, and this is not a conversation on that, but that also did not go well for me. I had a reaction. And as soon as I had that, along with having the turmoil, again, I can't say one or the other absolutely caused it, but both of those things coincided together. And I went full blown into an autoimmune disease, which was really strange because nobody in my family had it. I was a healthy 18-year-old. I worked out. I didn't, like there was literally no other reason for me to suddenly develop this disease. So I had Graves' disease, which gave me a lot of anxiety. Really, I started because of the hormones and just that's one of the symptoms of thyroid issues. I didn't understand how to manage the anxiety at the time. So I had really severe anxiety. I was in and out of the hospital. I had weight loss that I just couldn't, with Graves, it's kind of the opposite of Hashimoto. So I was losing weight, but you also lose muscle. You're just really, really weak. I was tired all the time. My hair was falling out. And I had thyroid disease for about, it was 8 years. Cause I trying to remember, cause now I'm 31. I got rid of it finally at 25. I healed myself at 25. So I had it for a while. And I was on medication, which managed it. So long story short, essentially what happened was when I got married, I was about to get married. I was 25. I went to my endocrinologist and I was like, hey, I really would love to get off this medication. And she just told me straight up, you're going to be on this for the rest of your life. Nobody ever gets off of this. And that's just the way it is. And I'm the kind of personality where if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to just watch me. It was the perfect thing to say to me because it's you freaking watch, right? You know that if you're that personality type. So it kind of just pissed me off. And the other thing that she said was, oh, if you go in to start a family, we're going to have to be really careful because with this medication you're on, it's going to be not only hard to get pregnant, but it can be very dangerous to you and the child. And I was like, F that. I'm not available for this anymore. It just made me even more determined to heal myself. And so the process of healing myself was actually really simple. I started working out more, not because I had to, or because I was hating my body into healing. I just felt like that felt good. That was really it. So I started working out 30 minutes a day. I cleaned up my diet a little bit, but I still definitely was very 80-20, 80% healthy, which is what I do now. So it wasn't anything crazy. But the main thing was I distinctly remember the day that I healed myself. I literally remember the moment I was laying on my couch and I remember having a conversation, and I wasn't at the time, I was 25. I wasn't as spiritual as I am now. I wasn't into hypnosis. I didn't understand anything about the subconscious mind. I didn't understand anything about healing. I didn't understand anything outside of traditional medicine. But I do remember, it was very weird that I had this experience, but I remember laying on the couch and having this conversation with my basically my higher self. And I remember kind of having literally a conversation. I can't explain it any other way. And I just said, I don't want this anymore. And I heard a voice within me saying, if you let this go, then who are you? Because it was such a part of my identity. I was the person with thyroid disease. I was the girl who had anxiety. I was the girl who had to take medication. I got something from that. I got attention and I got to be sick. And I realized that that's the only thing that was keeping that disease in my body, was that I was getting so much from it. And so I was like, you know what? No, I'm not this identity. And I don't choose this anymore. I don't accept it. It's not who I am. And so I just decided that's not my identity and I let it go. And then I went to the doctor a month later and she's like, I don't know what happened, but you're completely healed. And I've been healed since. I haven't had thyroid disease since I was 25 and now I'm 31. So no issues, never had any flare-ups or anything. So that was pretty much, that was the first time I healed myself. And I realized that I have the ability to do that and started to get more into the kind of stuff that I do now. So
yeah. And it's the ability to really believe in miracles, right? Because I think about Joe Dispenza and how he literally healed his spine, reconstructed his spine.
Yes.
In 10 and a half weeks with his mind, with his intention. And I'm like, dude, and they said he wasn't going to walk, and so the fact that we have the ability to do that with our intention is something that a lot of people just are like, oh, that's ridiculous. That's hogwash. That's ridiculous. But then why has it happened to countless people? Right. Yeah. And that you use the word pregnancy and creation is that, this entire universe, us as beings, our planet, our miraculous, amazing planet was created out of nothing, empty space. And so it's all you have to do is find that little bit of space, which is what you did on the couch that day. You opened up a little space and said, I'm just going to have this quick convo with my higher self and be like, WTF, I'm done,
Yeah. Like, I
Exactly. I
don't
love
need
that.
this anymore. I don't need this, and
Yeah.
I don't need to identify with it. And that was it.
And that's so funny because, like, when I first got diagnosed with my immunodeficiency and I was starting infusions, I jumped into all of these groups to like learn about what I was going through and what I was experiencing and how I could prepare to make the infusions less impactful on my body and all this other stuff, right? In a negative way, of course. And so I was looking at all this, and there were just so many people who had taken on sick as their identity. And I was like, peace, like, I'm going to grab my information and then I'm out of here. Cause I was like,
Yeah.
I do not want to identify with this, you know?
Mhm.
And it was funny because I kind of went back and forth with like denial around the fact that I was sick, you know, and that I had something that I needed to take care of. But mostly it was about me kind of growing up a little bit and taking full responsibility for my wellness and my
Yeah.
health and my vibe. And I had to boss up, honestly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to, because I was very happy and fine before then, but now I'm like much better than that, you know, like phenomenal, amazing. And I just didn't know that was accessible.
Yeah. And I almost feel like the longer you live, you're eventually going to get sick from something. And I don't say that from a pessimistic point. We're human. We're going to have sickness and injury. And it's almost like I kept getting these things until I learned the lesson that if you're not responsible for your own health, nobody else is going to be. And that's what we're taught in our culture, you know, hand over your power to everybody else. And they're going to fix it for you. And no, they're not. And I just got, you know, and even after I healed my thyroid, I still didn't learn that lesson. I had to have a couple other things happen for me to finally learn that I need to question what the doctors say. I need to not just assume that when they hand me a drug that they're, you know, it's going to be a perfect fit, or it's just a Band-Aid, you know, it really is what it is. And I need to go within and take responsibility for that. And that was a hard lesson to learn. Took me longer than maybe it should have, but I finally figured it out.
Yeah. And trusting your intuition, you know, and that's a muscle, right? So it was like, you had been working on your physical muscles, working out before that, but it's also like really honing that intuitive muscle and getting it to a point where like you have that clarity. Like something very similar, but completely unrelated to health was like this weekend, we have this drain that's been kind of backing up in one of our sinks. And so I said to my husband, I was like, can we get the plumber in here? Like this has been going on for a while. And I said, this is what he said the last time he was here, that it's because we have hard water and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, that's bullshit. I was like, no, it's not. He always knows this shit. And like, there's a filter on the thing that came off and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, no, I just don't feel like that's the issue. And so he went in there and it wasn't the issue. And he fixed the drain.
So he trusted.
Exactly. Right? And so I'm like, look at that. You trusted your intuition. It doesn't matter who it is. We're all human beings. We just have a perspective, and it's just another perspective we can put on the table to consider with our own guidance.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So how did you heal the anxiety and the OCD? Because that's also something that I know a lot of people could benefit from understanding.
Yeah. So I still experience anxiety and I still experience OCD thoughts occasionally. I just don't let them take over. I don't live in fear of them anymore. And they're not so overwhelming that I can't function. And I'm not afraid of them. So, but I do experience them. But again, I identified for years as somebody who has anxiety, and I would have panic attacks all the time. I remember one time I had one at work and I had to get taken to the hospital because it wouldn't end. It was just that's like humiliating, right?
Yeah.
To go from that to where now it's just like a blip in the radar of my experience. It's pretty exciting. So I first started to have the OCD thoughts, which the kind of OCD that I struggled with was harm OCD when I had my first son. And that really, I had it a little bit before my whole life. I didn't realize that's what it was. I thought I was just like a little bit weird, like counting my steps constantly to self-soothe and things like that. I didn't realize what it was. And then when I had my son, it got really, really, really bad to the point where I could hardly function. It was the most scary thing I've ever been through. Yeah. But again, it was a huge gift because now that I've been through that, then when I work with clients and they come to me with anxiety or OCD, I totally get it. I can walk you through the process. But the main thing that I did was I read some really good books, you know, by therapists. I think seeing a therapist can be really helpful if you feel called. That taught me some strategies so that I didn't identify with the thoughts, that I could be the observer of the thoughts. And with the OCD thoughts, I had a big thing for me was recognizing that as long as I was afraid of them, I was giving them even more power. So the key that I had to learn was this balance between not ignoring them, because that's just going to push them away. And then they're like a little kid, they're just going to get louder until you pay attention. But I also you don't want to pay attention and give them all your attention like they mean something. Like thoughts are just thoughts. They don't all have meaning. They're not all important. They don't all need my attention. So I notice them. I say hi. I let them know like, hi, I see you. And then that's it. I let them chill. I don't make them mean anything. So that was, it just takes a practice and recognizing thoughts. So I would often do an actual process that I would literally walk through when I would have a thought that was a really like anxious, harm, OCD thought. I would literally go through the process of recognize it's just a thought, accept and allow, float and feel, move my attention. And I would just do that all day long. And it worked. It worked until eventually now I'm practiced at it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's definitely still something I experience. And the anxiety can definitely be more of a feeling in my body. So when I have anxiety in my body, it's kind of the same thing. I just go to where that feeling is and I ask it what it needs or what needs to be seen. And then I use tapping. I exercise a lot to help move the energy, things like that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that you're incorporating the physical body too, because anxiety is such a physical experience for so many people. That's how I experience it as well. So, and it's interesting because I've done a lot of work with people on OCD. I have a history with OCD myself, and I've truly found that the really core root of OCD is self-doubt. You know, because you don't trust that you're not going to harm someone. You don't trust that you didn't turn off the light switch. You don't trust yourself. And so honestly, it seems like such a simple fix. However, it does take practice, like you said, which is hone your intuition, get to know yourself really freaking well. And I would add in like, appreciate yourself, you know, like for who you are and what you come to this world with, because when you can do that and you ease into trusting yourself little by little by little, and you can start with smaller things that don't scare you as much, the more you're really building that self-trust so that you know that you have a safe home within yourself that you can rely on.
Yeah. And I noticed that my anxiety and my OCD it always gets stronger and more intense in phases of life where I don't feel safe. Like if I don't feel like I have control, I can't be sure of an outcome. That's when it comes in, because it comes down to that trust piece as well. Not only could I not trust myself, I also can't trust the universe to take care of me. I can't trust the world. So then it would get even worse, right? It would be like a major control issue almost. So I noticed that. So when I have transitions in life, that's another thing where I'm like when I had my second son, it wasn't nearly as bad, like a blip in the radar really. But when it did come up, I was like, well, of course I'm having a transition. There's a lot up in the air. I can't control this. And I have struggled with control issues. So, you know, having to work through that again was just something that gets easier and easier with time.
But see, I love how loving and compassionate you are to yourself when that comes up, you know? So like it comes up and you're not just like, oh shit, here we go again. Cause that's the primary thought for most people, right? Is
really?
Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah. Trust me, being a therapist for 20 years, the primary thought. And anybody that has had chronic issues with anxiety or depression, it's like that little sadness comes up and their thoughts like, oh, here we go again. Like this is all coming. And then I'm going to get depressed, you know, and then they get like anxious about the depression, or they get depressed about the depression possibly coming. And then they bring it on, you know what I mean? And so it's so beautiful that you're able to have that self-awareness and that honestly, that just that little bit of a gap, right? That little bit of a pause for yourself where you're able to say, it's just of course this is happening. It's a transition, and like being really gentle with yourself. And that's the approach that eases us into a greater state of flow rather than what a lot of people do, which is criticism and questioning of yourself.
I have no tolerance to be an asshole to myself.
Yeah. I love that.
I just don't tolerate it.
You have boundaries with yourself.
Yeah. And I used to have a full-blown eating disorder when I was younger because I was just so mean to myself. And it's just like, I'm not available. I'm not. And I think a lot of that I healed through. I think hypnosis you can use whatever tool resonates with you. Hypnosis has just been one of the tools that's always resonated and worked really well for me. Yeah. And so I've done a lot of hypnosis around self-love, self-acceptance, and self-worth. And having a good relationship with myself and mothering myself when I need mothered. Like we are
Yeah.
children deep inside.
Yeah.
And so I just imagine, like, would I ever look at 3-year-old Cassie and be like, what the freak's wrong with you? Get it together.
Right.
Oh, of course you're doing this. Here we go. Like, I would never. And so that's what I always think about if I am hard on myself. And now it's just not even something that I really ever go into. Or if I do, I can snap out of it really quickly.
Right. Well, and that's why you're such a beautiful model, because, you know, the people who are starting out on this journey or who are in the midst of it and are kind of frustrated with that repetitive, you know, practice of the things that we do need to practice to bring ourselves back into alignment. This is what I was sharing on a live last week too. It's like the more that I turned toward myself, turned toward the pain, turned toward the anxiety, et cetera, the easier that it vanishes and the quicker that it vanishes, because you're developing a relationship with yourself and you are doing the work, you know, you're practicing what you preach. And so to be able to reflect that it actually can be easy, like I'm living proof, like it can actually be easy. Hang in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And just, that's the thing, people personalize their habits. So one of the things that I have studied a lot and work, because I used to be a speech language pathologist, as I told you. So I understand a lot about how the brain works. And once I understood that habits are not who I am, like people personalize their habits, like, oh, here we go again. I'm going to go into this thought spiral. Your thoughts are just like anything else. You've habitualized this habit of going into these spirals. Like, at least for me, I would habitualize, I'm getting anxiety, and then I'd get anxiety about the anxiety. And then I would go, and it became a pattern for me, and it became a habit. And then people personalize it, like, oh my God, I suck. Why can't I get it together? And it's like, no, this is what your brain does. Your brain habitualizes actions and patterns. That's what it does. So it's really not a big deal. Nothing has gone wrong here. It's just your brain doing what it does. We're just going to make a new pattern, and we're going to practice this new pattern. And eventually this will become the habit, and that will fall away. You're going to create a new neural network. So from a brain standpoint, that also helped me not personalize things and be like, oh, it's me. I'm broken. I need fixing. No, like your brain's just straight up doing what it does. Like nothing's gone wrong here. So
see, I love that. I love that because it makes me think of when I was in elementary school and my sister and I, there were a couple of streets over, there was a little boy who was having trouble walking, and he was about 3, I think. I think he had Down syndrome, but he was like having trouble walking. And she was working with, the mom was working with a doctor that was repatterning him to be able to walk. And so my sister and I would go over there every single day after school. And for like 45 minutes, she and I would each take a leg, and he would be laying down, and we would be patterning walking for him. And then we would each have an arm and a leg, so that we were patterning because that's what they were doing, is they were saying like, all we need to do is repattern the pathways so that his brain remembers how to walk, so that he can walk, or that knows how to walk. And so we kept doing that for months. And it wasn't just us. I mean, there were people every day, like everybody was pitching in to help. And it was so cool because he ended up walking, you know, and it's so beautiful that we can do that. But you know what that does is it requires creativity to think about that. And it requires space and patience to open up and trust that that's going to work, you know? And so I give so much credit to that mom who was just like, no, I believe in this, you know, I believe that this is going to work. And she didn't give up. And it was like 4 months worth, but it happened, you know? So it can take time, and the amount of time it takes is again, not something to judge or to like analyze or feel nervous about. Like it takes as long as it takes based on your unique system.
Exactly. Yes. The whole belief of like, oh, it takes 21 days to make a new pattern. It's not really true. Right. Like it's going to be different depending on the person and the situation. And we also know a lot about neuroplasticity now. You know, when I was in high school, they'd be like, once you hit a certain age, your brain's just the way it is and you're just screwed. Like you can't change it. And that's why a lot of people will be like, oh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, or older generations. Well, they just truly don't believe they can change. And it's like, we know neuroplasticity now. We know that the brain continue to evolve. It can change. It can change neural pathways. I don't care how old you are. It does not matter. And that also gives us back some of our power, because if you believe that, oh, well, I've hit 60, I can't change my brain anymore. Well, then you've just given your power away completely. And it's not even true. And science proves it now. So you can
I love that so
age.
much. Yeah. See, that's brilliant. Like I was in an autoimmune program with a functional medicine doctor, and she was saying the same thing. And there was somebody in the program who was 83. She's like, you think you can't change your body? you know, I got somebody here who's 83 who's completely healed herself through this. You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, like I love that she had an open mindset to be able to dive in and know what you're saying, which is you can do it at any time. So how did you, I'm so fascinated by this because I know that you used hypnosis to get pregnant after struggling, and I'm like fascinated to know this. So can you share this with us, please?
Yeah, it's so funny. So when I say struggling, I also want to totally share that there are people who have struggled far harder than we did. And I have like the most empathy. Like it is a very challenging experience. And I cannot imagine going years and years. Like I just cannot imagine. So if you're listening, I send you love. That is a soul lesson that was very painful. And I truly believe that everything that happens to me happens for me. So I knew there's gifts in here. I'm learning lessons that I wouldn't have been able to learn. And I'm really grateful for those. But long story short, I got pregnant with my first son, literally like instantaneously. Great pregnancy. Well, I don't like being pregnant, but in terms of health,
I'm right there with you.
I do not like being pregnant, but it was good. So when we had the second, me being me, I was like, I planned it out. I literally planned my vacations. I was like, we're going to get pregnant on this day. We're going to have him in this month and everything's good. And of course, you know, you make plans and God's like, good one. So that was first mistake. Like that was just dumb of me. I don't know why I did that, but not literally, but you know what I mean? Right. So I planned it all out and we weren't getting pregnant. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I don't understand. I eat healthy. I work out. There's no reason that I shouldn't be getting pregnant. The doctors checked me for hormones and stuff. I was good to go. And then after about 7 months-ish of trying, so it wasn't even that long. 7 months really in the grand scheme of things, especially with people who struggle, wasn't that long. I was just really impatient. We got pregnant, but then I miscarried and we got pregnant again and I miscarried. And that was a whole different level of like, I just have, again, so much empathy if anybody's experienced that. So long story short, when I miscarried the second time, I had already been certified in hypnotherapy. I've used it for all sorts of things. It never really occurred to me to use it for pregnancy. I don't know why. Like it just didn't even occur to me at all, which is so funny. So I was messaging my friend who's a hypnotherapist and she's like, oh, by the way, I just helped a couple women get pregnant through hypnosis. Like you should try that. And I was like, oh my God, why did I not think of this? Like you can use hypnosis for anything, of course. Yeah. Long story short, I did a 15-minute hypnosis, literally 15 minutes. I did it one time and I was pregnant, which I wasn't expecting to be because my husband was traveling a lot for work and I was traveling. So I didn't even hardly see him. So the chances of us getting pregnant a month were like 0. So I was like, I'm not even gonna worry about it. It's not going to happen. But we did. We got pregnant like right after I did the hypnosis. And now I have my son who's 8 weeks old. So, yeah, that's the long and short of it. But I just used hypnosis and I knew that if I could communicate with my subconscious, I could heal whatever was going on there. And that's what I did.
Yeah. And I love that too, because that's a scenario where a lot of people would throw up their hands, right? Or continue to go the medical route around, you know, IVF. And of course, those are options and they're wonderful options. I have so many people in my life who have used those successfully. But I also think that there's so many other tools available at our disposal that we can access as well. And so I love that you were able to honestly get pregnant so quickly. Holy crap. After that.
Yeah. I was like, awesome. You know, it's so simple. So it's worth a try. And then I actually, when I gave birth to my second son, I had a pretty traumatic birth with my first son. So I knew I wanted to go natural. So I used hypnobirthing, which I'm sure some people have heard of, through my entire 11-hour labor. And that was amazing too. So I just put myself in hypnosis to give birth, which was super fun. So I've used hypnosis for all sorts of things at this point. And now what I do is I use it in my business and I help entrepreneurs use it to grow their business because there's so many uses that people don't realize for it. And it's just such a powerful tool.
Yeah. And I've been able to benefit from a lot of Cassie's hypnoses and they're just wonderful. They're so wonderful. They're so soothing. They're so comforting. They're so deep. My whole body is like numb. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're amazing. So can you share how people can get in touch with you? Because I always encourage people at the end of this show, if they connect with your vibe, if they feel like, you know what, I just want to be in your world. I want to figure out how to have a conversation or how you can help me. What's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yes, the best way would be my Instagram is Cassie Biltz, Cassie Biltz. I always have to spell it because everybody spells it kind of wrong. And when you're on my Instagram, if you click, I meant to have the URL ready in my head and I don't, but there is a really good training for anybody who wants to understand more about the subconscious mind. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, even if you're not wanting to learn about business, it's a really, really, really good training to help you understand how subconscious identity plays out, because that affects healing as well. Because kind of like I was saying in the beginning, if you identify as being sick or having, that's going to definitely inhibit your healing. So it's really, really helpful. So if you go to my Instagram at Cassie Biltz, it is the 3rd training. It says free training, create your energetic biz breakthrough. Again, if you're not in business, it's still applicable because I get so much good feedback on that training, and it's really going to show you how to get more in touch with your subconscious to heal.
Okay, cool. And it looks like my team's dropping all the links here. So thank you so much, Cassidy. And so you guys can just literally just click there. You can grab that training and check it out and just get some more information, get a greater understanding of the kind of things that we're talking about. Because, again, these are practice. These are ways of being that we have adopted over time, and intentionally so, to be able to choose this path. So check it out. And again, just chat with Cassie, just
DM me if you have questions, or
just a conversation.
So if you want book recommendations, I'm like a huge book nerd. So if anybody's ever like, what book do you like? I'm like, oh my God, let me send you like 50 books. So just DM me if you ever want to talk about anything.
Exactly. And good. Cassidy just dropped the direct link to create your energetic biz and pinned it.
Awesome. Thanks.
Perfect. So you guys can grab that. And it's just a conversation between 2 people, friends. So if you align with Cassie, just connect and say hi. And thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun.
All right, friends. So I will see you next week on another episode of Heal Profoundly and Enduringly. Same time, same place. And we will see you very, very soon. Bye.
Bye.